All right, let's get underway and people can join us as we go. So once again, thank you everybody for joining VJ and myself for our webinar tonight. Exciting topic, relevant topic, something that we seem to be talking about more and more with our partners, with our customers. I'm sure something that you spend quite a fair bit of time thinking about as well, hybrid DR on Oracle. Especially given the encryption challenges on Oracle Cloud and all the possibilities and difficulties that entails. So let's get going, VJ. Just before we launch into the introductions, usual housekeeping. So if you do have any questions, I very much do encourage you to ask them. Click the Q&A section down below and put them in. Please don't wait until the end. Put the question in as soon as you can, as soon as you think of it, and then we'll deal with it at the end of the session. Yes, there will be a recording, and it will be provided to you in a follow-up email soon after the session ends. And finally, if you find it easier to follow this in a language other than English, we do have translations available. Please click the Show Captions button at the bottom of your screen and select your chosen language. So the agenda today is it's all about hybrid DR on Oracle Cloud specifically, as well as covering the concept in general. We're going to talk a little bit about what it is and why it's becoming more and more in demand, and then we're going to launch into some of the specifics around Oracle Cloud and some of the challenges associated with that, as well as some of the advantages of Oracle Cloud, of course, and then we'll end with talking a little bit about our product, Standby Multi-Platform, because we have recently put out quite an important update that was entirely focused on this topic, on providing hybrid DR for Oracle Cloud deployments. So we would very much appreciate the chance to show you what that looks like. My name's Alex. Hopefully I bear some resemblance to this wonderful marketing photograph. I'll take my glasses off for just a moment so that hopefully I do. I'm the head of development and product at DBVisit Software. I'm sure some of you have been on webinars with me before. And I'm joined today by my learned colleague and Oracle Ace Pro. So, please be upstanding for VJ, who is actually going to be taking you through the majority of the technical part of this webinar. VJ is our head of customer services and an Oracle Ace, as I said. So any detailed questions he'll be answering, I'm sure.
Thanks, Alex, for the great introduction.
So for those of you who may not have heard about DBVisit Software before, we are database disaster recovery specialists. It's the only thing we do. It's the only thing we specialize in and focus on. We provide product for good database DR. We've been doing it for 20 years. We've got a lot of customers all around the world in over 120 countries. We protect something like, I think it's over 35,000 databases, mission critical databases now. And we pride ourselves on having good software and better support. So that's what we're here for, is to help you achieve good DR in the real world as opposed to just on paper. So let's get into it. VJ, you ready?
Yes.
Good. So why hybrid DR? Why is hybrid DR becoming more desirable, and why are people talking about it more and more? It's because the world is, especially today, becoming an ever more unstable place. I'm sure that I don't have to provide any of you with examples as to that. And failure can occur at any time, whether on cloud or on premises. So a few statistics for you there. I'm not going to read them all out, but the key one there is at the top. 96% of global IT companies experience a business significant outage of some kind at least once every 3 years. And obviously, if the world is becoming more unpredictable, then it pays to be protected. A common misconception is that if you're on the cloud, then you are somehow immune to downtime and that you're safe, and that good disaster recovery is somehow baked in. And that would be lovely if that was the case, but unfortunately it is not. So Cloud is just as vulnerable to downtime as anything else. The advantages and the kind of the asset and resource duplication that the cloud offers is offset by the complexity of cloud deployments. So, it's not just about, is the hardware good? It's not just about, is the network good? It's all about, is the routing infrastructure in place? Do you have meaningful DR between multiple regions? Because of course, if you have cloud DR, but it's all in one region, and the whole region loses power due to a hurricane or some kind of natural disaster, typically you're not protected against that. And on screen in front of you now are just some of the recent examples, some of the more noteworthy examples that are available kind of out there in the public space. We deal with these things kind of from the inside, if you like, and I can tell you that there are plenty more. For every public disaster like this, there are 10 that companies don't announce to the wider public, to their customers, that they deal with internally. So the cloud is absolutely as vulnerable as anything else. The other reason why hybrid DR is becoming very important is because of increased regulation. So all over the world, governments and cyber insurance companies as well are doubling down on compliance and on certification and regulation. Again, in front of you are some of the examples of that. And these have been coming for a few years, but we're really starting to see them actually start being enforced, actually start being regulated. So, for example, GDPR obviously has been around forever, it seems, but it kind of wasn't really paid. People didn't pay a great deal of attention for a long time. But now we actually do hear of companies being audited, of companies being asked to remediate these concerns. And of course, your most critical data is inside your database. And so the protection of your database becomes a critical compliance requirement. So ultimately, whatever DR strategy you've got in place, it has to protect both cloud and on-premise environments. And I think traditionally, certainly the kind of pattern was that people treated these two quite differently. People would usually have one workflow for their on-premise stuff. And then for the few environments that they would migrate into cloud, they came up with something else. This is really not a great idea anymore. Many organizations run mixed environments, running mainly on-premise, but also migrating to cloud to kind of try it is becoming very common. And every time you have a different process, you just you kind of add to the risk of what you're going to do in an emergency situation. It's always best to have one workflow, one playbook, right? Know what you're doing and protect both your cloud and on-premise environments as similarly as possible and using as much of the same tools and processes as possible. The other thing about hybrid is when cloud, with big hyperscalers, when cloud services first started being offered, cloud providers would really try and they wouldn't perhaps tell you up front, but they would try to minimize your ways in and out. They kind of quite liked people to come into the cloud environment and really stay there. Didn't provide you too many options for getting your data out. That's still largely the case today, but more and more organizations are actually becoming aware of the fact that if they deploy into cloud, they need to have some fallback. They need to have some way of getting their data out, of managing their business critical workflows without that cloud provider, possibly with a different cloud provider, but just not being locked into a solution. And hybrid DR is a huge part of that, because if you are running a hybrid environment and you're running DR across that environment, it's very, very important to know how you're going to get data in and how you're going to get data out. And more organizations are experimenting with this. So it's a very, it's a great business enabler, but it's also a great business risk. And so one of the things we're here to talk about is how to mitigate that. So with that said, I'll pass you over to VJ, who's gonna start telling you a little bit about Oracle Cloud specifically, and how we play in it.
Thanks, Alex. That was a great introduction, and you've said it really well. How important is it to have a hybrid environment in a cloud, or have a hybrid environment for on-premise environments, for your production environments? So when it comes to hybrid environments, we are going to focus on OCI. So as you all know that many of you would have been well accustomed with OCI. It provides several advantages that makes it suited well for DR for Oracle database, because the one advantage is it has a built-in transparent database encryption, which is enforced by default for DBCS environments, database as service environments. And with on-premise, it is not available. Even for Oracle Standard Edition or OCA, what do you say, makes it available. And with Enterprise Edition for your on-premise environments, you would need an ASO option to get additional licensing. But OCA offers all these for your both Enterprise and Standard Edition free of cost. And when it comes to licensing, it's pay-as-you-go licensing, because traditionally Oracle used perpetual licensing that with restricted flexibility. It does not allow you to have any room to move around. But with OCA database as service, it provides a per hour charge for your infrastructure and your license as well. This makes it useful for you to have environments, which is even non-production environments, with restricted uptime, so that you can save cost on your licensing as well. And with operational speed and consistency, all Oracle native environments have their own familiar tools and operation model that will help ensure that it provides you with maximum speed and consistency across those infrastructure. So if you look at the image here, we clearly see that what is a single environment with two OCPUs with 32 GB memory and 712 GB of block volumes with high performance. It roughly comes to around 550 New Zealand dollars, which is 560 New Zealand dollars, which is for your instance, which is running throughout your entire month. And so this is including your infrastructure and your Oracle licensing. And the key advantage here is it can be used for your DR environments, where requirement can change over time, because initially as a DR environment, you might not need much resources. But over a period of time, when it becomes a production environment, you might need increased resources, which can be done as well. And so how fast can you provision these environments? When it comes to provisioning, it hardly takes 30 minutes to provision your OCI DBCS environment. And patching and changing the shape of the environment, so that is increasing your resources, can be easily done directly from your OCI console. And patching backups, everything can be configured directly from your OCA console itself. That is one of the advantages within OCA, so that everything can be taken care within the console itself. So one of the two things when it comes to OCA is a compute environment and a base database service environment. A compute environment is nothing but it's a bare metal VM based environment, wherein you have full control over your OS and you install your Oracle binaries. And patching and the maintenance is managed by yourself, and Oracle licenses BUIOL. So you bring your own license. But the backups can be directly managed from OCI console itself. And at the same time, platform supported on Linux and Windows. And when it comes to OCI-based database services, it's a pre-built environment. So when you spin up an OCI DBCS environment, it comes with a OS and binary installed along with your database already available. So the options are both Standard Edition and Enterprise Edition. Then the patching and lifecycle that can be directly managed by OCA console. So you don't have to manually patch your environments. The patching can be done directly by clicking a button in your OCA console itself. And there's an option for you to bring your own license, or licenses included, but this is available only on Linux environment. So these are some of the typical environments that are available from an infrastructure point of view in OCA. We are not covering Exadata systems or autonomous database systems because from a hybrid standpoint of view, it is not relevant. So when it comes to use cases, there are two use cases for your standby. So one is need for DR, so which is increasingly popular. The advantage here is it improves the resiliency of existing on-premise environment using your OCA standby database so that you can spin up these standby environments within 30 minutes, provision, create your standby database, and then ensure that you are protected. And another key advantage is out-of-region DR environments, which is also very key because if you have to have an out-of-region on-premise environment as a DR, it requires a lot of cost and infrastructure requirements, which is not the case for your OCI. You can just spin up an out-of-region environment and use it for your disaster recovery purposes. And the license include options for your database as service, for example, for your DBCS, you pay per OCPU. And this is a strong solution from an OCA point of view because for its easy scalability and licensing cost, because you don't have to spend on additional licensing. At the same time, you can scale your DR environments to have additional resources once you do a switchover or a failover to make it as a production or as a DR testing purposes. And the second option here is complete or partial migration of databases to Oracle Cloud. This is also a very cool strategy if you have to move your production database, which is on-premise, to your OCI, wherein you create your DR environment and test your DR environment, say, perform a gradual migration and ensure that the data is available on both your on-premise and your OCI. And the advantage here is the ability to fail back as well. So during cutover, you could do is you could do a switchover. So your OCI becomes your production and your on-premise becomes your standby. If there are any issues, there is a possibility for you to switch back to its original configuration so that you can do further tests or play with the resources or do a root cause analysis of what happened during the migration steps. So what physical replication in a hybrid environment solves both these use cases. For example, both your DR and your migration steps. Um, A standby environment allows your development and testing teams to test and evaluate cloud safety. Your infrastructure team, your security team to test your cloud safety. And you don't need to have a full commitment as well. So for example, if you're not, if once you spin up an environment, if you're not satisfied, you can just drop those environments and recreate, which is in another 30 minutes, you can spin up another environment, which is not the case for your on-premise. Because if you're in on-premise, you have to spend on your capital expenditure for your infrastructure, servers, and all of the things. And database migrations can be done simply with a switchover or a failover to your cloud. Usually we recommend switchover because the ability for you to bring it back to its original configuration if there are any issues. And repeated tests are possible because you can do DR tests or migration tests on your DR environment, both for your enterprise and your standard edition. So on paper, hybrid DR looks very simple, right? So primary database is running in on-premise, standby database is running in OCI, a physical replication either with DB visit or with data guard ensures that your standby is in sync with your primary, and during disaster, you just fail over to OCI. But in practice, it is much more complicated than that, especially with DBCS, because it involves an encryption component. So we look at what are challenges when it comes to encryption and other things. So you see, we already saw that there are two aspects, right? One is a bare metal VM, which is OCA compute, another is base database services. So the typical challenges that we face is on a bare metal VM is so network connectivity, VPN, provisioning, and becoming familiar with OCA architecture. But I think we can safely say now that most of us are familiar with that particular architecture. But the main thing is ensuring that your network connectivity is proper, your provisioning has been done correctly, and the bandwidth between your on-premise and your OC compute is well enough. But with base database service, apart from this network connectivity and provisioning challenges, all Oracle databases that are running on DBCS are mandatory encrypted by TDE. So this is what is achieved by a parameter called as tablespace encryption or encrypt new tablespaces. The parameter was kind of overridden by tablespace encryption parameter. And when it comes to OCA, this parameter is impossible to change in your cloud environment. And the another thing is, as soon as the instance started, it takes a value that will ensure that all the data files and all the table spaces that are created on those environments are encrypted. But TDE is normally an enterprise edition feature, and you need to have a separate license for it in your on-premise environment. But with cloud, Oracle offers you at free of cost, both for your enterprise edition and standard edition. So for enterprise edition, it allows you to have both united and isolated modes for encryption, wherein you can have master keys for all your individual pluggable databases. But for standard edition, it gives only in united mode, wherein you can have only a single master key. So the challenge until 19.16, that's the key version that solved the problem that we had for hybrid DR solution. So data file must be encrypted on both sides of replication. So if your data files are encrypted on your primary and it requires an advanced security option, and ASO is additional cost, as we said, and ASO is not available for standard edition. But with an encrypted primary databases, we require support for switchback when it comes if your OCI becomes your primary database, as you see in this particular case. But another thing is, what happens is, if you're going from your on-premise to OCI, everything replication works well because from your on-premise environment, everything is unencrypted. So you send it to your OCI, it's encrypted there. So when you perform a switchover, switchover works perfectly fine. So your OCI can become a primary without any issues. But when you want to switch back, the on-premise becomes encrypted, or you cannot, for example, you cannot switch back or send back the archlogs from your encrypted database to your unencrypted on-premise environment because by default, your on-premise environment does not have any encryption keys or TDE configured for it. So that becomes a problem. And to eliminate this challenge, Oracle introduced a parameter called as tablespace encryption in 19.16. And this replaces the encrypt new tablespace parameter. So there are three possible values for this particular parameter. One is auto enable, which is enforced by default in your OCI environment. So what it means is all newly created table space will be encrypted, including newly added data files. And another thing is, for your on-premise environment, this is by default manual enable. It means that if you have an ASO license, then you can set it to auto enable. Otherwise, or you have to provide, if your ASO is enabled as well, if you are keeping it as manual enable, you have to provide the encryption keyword to encrypt a specific table space or data files, or even cases where objects. And decrypt only. This is the key parameter that helped us to ensure that any new table spaces that are created in your on-premise environment, if this particular value is set, will be unencrypted. So, and the key thing is decrypt parameter, this particular value can be set on both standard edition and enterprise edition, enabling your table spaces and data files to be unencrypted on your on-premise environment without TDE. So that's the key advantage here. And this tablespace encryption parameter was introduced in 19.16. So now how do we configure it? So in this situation, what happens is the replication happens in both the sides. Data file remains unencrypted on your on-premise environment. So here the situation here is your data guard is your data guard, your primary is in your OCI configured for a data guard on your on-premise standby database. So data file remains unencrypted on your on-premise regardless of whether the role is primary or standby. So no encrypted data files, no requirement for ASO. But what we recommend is we recommend a patch of 19.27. The reason why we recommend this particular patch is there are a few things that was there are a few bugs that are eliminated from this version onwards. Otherwise, you have to apply one-off patches. So we recommend 19.27 to ensure that this is you don't have to apply any further patches for this environment to work without any issues for your failover, switchover, recreating a standby database, and all those things. And the key thing is if your on-premise becomes your primary, your standby database, which is in your OCI, if any new table space is created on your on-premise, the standby, it is encrypted as well. So that is also taken care by your with your table space encryption parameter.
I wonder if Oracle sets out on purpose to make these things so complicated.
So that's where we come in, right? Even with all this process, Oracle fix with table
Yeah,
space encryption parameter and everything, operationally it is still very complex.
that's right.
Both for
Well, that's the very thing. I mean, even if you're an expert DBA and you kind of and you can see the big picture, just keeping track of all this stuff.
that's true. Yeah. Operationally it becomes it's way more complicated because but for both your enterprise and your standard edition. Let's see what is the complexity here. The complexity here is, as you say, the first step is we provision the OCI for your future standby environment and then drop the default database that was created in your DBCS environment. And what you have to do is you have to delete the default key store that was created there because we don't want that key store to be there because we'll be creating a new key store on your on-premise environment. And what you have to do is on your on-premise environment, set these parameters. The tablespace encryption parameter on your on-premise should be set as decrypt only. You have to set your wallet root. And if you're an enterprise edition, you have to set your standby file management to auto as well. And what happens is once this is done, you create a key store on your on-premise as United mode. It means there is only one master key that is available. And what you do is you create an auto login key store, open the primary with it, then retain it. So what will happen is this master key password that you use, you have to ensure that you store it somewhere which is very safe, and it will become part of your production DB environment, even though no data files and table space are encrypted there. So the trick is you create your keys and wallet keys and master keys and everything, but none of your data files or table space will be encrypted on your on-premise. And now what you have to do is you have to copy these keys to your DBCS environment and create a standby database in your OCI. So you can use ARM and duplicate for standard edition. One thing that you have to use is ensure is you have to use a standby control file, which is by default, yeah. And on your standby environment, you have to set this key configuration is equal to file, and you have to set your wallet root parameter. And by default, the tablespace encryption parameter is automatically set to auto enable. You just have to check it. Uh, in case, as a matter of fact, you don't even have to check it. It is by default auto enable, but you have to just check it whether it is an auto enable or not. And what happens is once your standby database is created, all the data files and table space that are created there would be unencrypted. So we recommend them to encrypt it manually. So Oracle itself in a specific note, it says that you can have your OCI DBCS environment table spaces as unencrypted files. But the other fact here is any new data files or table spaces created, it will be encrypted by default. So we have to ensure that to maintain uniformity across, just encrypt them manually on your standby site as well. It is not mandatory, but it is a recommended practice to do it. So some of the tricks for success. These are some of the SQL commands that are very, very important for you to know and run so that you can check whether your wallet is auto login and status is open and the to match your primary and standby database, the key ID, con ID, everything must be empty when creating a new key store for the first time. So it is not no rows should be selected. And for on-premise environment, the third sequence, that is select file hash and table space and encrypted, it should show no, because your on-premise environment is not encrypted at all. None of them are encrypted. And another key thing here is, if you're going to recreate your standby database, if you're going to recreate a standby database as an uh, from your in your on-premise environment from your OCI primary, you have to ensure that you use restore as decrypted. If you don't use restore as decrypted, what happens here is all the data files and table space will be restored as encrypted. Why? Because it has a wallet key. Because you've already configured TDE in it. So this was one of the bugs that was initially found in version 19.16 onwards, and there was no patch available for it until 19.17 or 18, and there was a one-off patch that was done, and this one-off patch was included with the release only from 19.27 onwards. So if you work with 19.27, this patch is already included so that you don't have to separately apply an additional patch to ensure that whenever you restore your standby database in your on-premise environments, you can use restore database as decrypted. That's one of the key things. So this is how it is done for your standard edition and enterprise edition environments if you have to do it manually. At the same time, one of the key things here is the standby file management is set to auto only for your enterprise edition environments, not for your standard edition environments. Because standard edition, you cannot set standby file management to auto, it has to be set only to manual. So, from patches 1918 to 1924, what happened was with this setting to manual, especially for standard edition, whenever a new table space was created on your on-premise OCI after the switchover, how much ever we tried, by default, for a standard edition environment, the standby environment and on-premise created that particular file as an encrypted file. So from 19.25 onwards, something changed in Oracle that made ensure that the standby data files and table space that is created on your OCA primary as encrypted is created as an decrypted file on your standby environment. That's the reason we say that it is safer to start using from 19.27 onwards. So now we have seen all those complexities here. Now I'll give it back to Alex to run through the DBWizard standby NP.
Thanks, Vijay. While you were talking, a couple of people were having their mind blown in the Q&A about the fact that this is even possible. So I think, like I said at the beginning of the webinar, I think this is something that people are generally not aware of. Like, even if even if you're an Oracle expert, just this stuff is so confusing, the way that they've done it, or rather not the way they've done it, but the way you have to do it in order to actually allow data to be moved both in and out of a hybrid DR solution on OCI. I think this webinar is well timed. So anyway, so with regards to DBWizard and our standby multi-platform product, I'm sure most of the people on this webinar are already aware, but the product is essentially a data guard-like 4SE feature for standard edition. We use Oracle's own physical replication method using archive log files to basically to move the data, replicate the data from primary to standby, and the product is designed to help you automate all that. So as of a little while ago, the product also fully integrates all of these steps that Vijay just spent half an hour telling you about in a completely autonomous way. So you are able to install our standby multi-platform for Oracle product on your on-premise and on your Oracle Cloud environments. Set up a standard disaster recovery configuration, which you can do in a couple of clicks. And all of these multiple steps dealing with setting parameters, taking care of your key store and your wallet, taking care of edge case scenarios like, for example, when new data files appear or new table spaces appear, um, taking care of scenarios where, for example, you need to not just ship log files, but also, for example, do a differential synchronization of your databases. All of these things have slightly different workflows with regards to this transparent database encryption, and our product integrates all of them completely transparently to you. So you can click a button to to synchronize or to automate log shipping or to do a switchover, do a zero data loss switchover, and any steps that have to happen in the background to ensure that this works together with this hybrid DR on OCI setup are just handled automatically. And again, it just goes back to making sure you have a standardized process. Even if you know exactly what you're doing, and you really are a great expert DBA, just the number of steps you have to take in the right order, not to break anything, it just makes life a little bit challenging. So, just for a couple of examples, if you look at the screen right now that Vijay is showing, so all the way from environment detection, the screenshot you're looking at right now is part of our configuration creation flow. If you are on Oracle Cloud, our product is smart enough to automatically detect that and show you, a signifier of that, and edit the parameters you have to set accordingly. And the only thing you really have to do is ensure you specify a unique database name, and we kind of take it from there. We do all of the TDE wallet management for you in all kinds of scenarios, whether you already have a wallet, whether you don't have a wallet on your standby side. All you have to do is enter the password and we'll take care of that for you. If there are any issues, we provide you with exact guidance as to what went wrong and how to fix it. Same thing with operations. So if you look at that little yellow warning note there, so in this particular case, this is an outtake from a screenshot showing where we've detected a hybrid environment. We've detected that the standby is an OCI. And so because of certain parameters needing to be set as part of this process, we've detected that that the primary will need to be restarted during a certain action. An action that typically the primary would not have to be restarted for. So again, the product is capable of warning you in exactly each scenario of what's going to happen, which is kind of cool. What were your thoughts when you were first testing all this stuff out, Vijay?
It was the most simplest method that I have created a standby database using transparent database encryption, because initially we tried with on-premise so not an on-premise. Why am I saying on-premise? With Enterprise Edition.
Enterprise, yeah.
So we had to take care of all these steps manually, like ensuring the parameters are set properly, ensuring the TDE parameters are set. We have to manually copy everything. We have to run the duplicate command and pray to God that everything works fine. And then once it's done, that's when we have to, this is all manual steps everything. With DB Visit, we eliminate all these steps. You just have to provide the proper password and then ensure that you remember the password.
Yeah, yes, that's right. We've got a big orange warning. It's in a couple of places in the product that says you must remember this. Because please folks, don't forget your TDE wallet passwords, because that way lies pain. Anyway, let's summarize. So thank you, Vijay, for that. That was very comprehensive. It's great to first kind of learn about what the challenges are, and then to learn about how we went about solving them. I think that's very helpful to the folks on the call. To summarize, look, hybrid DR on OCI is becoming an ever more used practical model. It's no longer just something that's possible in theory. It's something that's becoming used in practice. If this is relevant for your business, then you might like to take steps to make sure that whatever DR process you have in place is capable of working with that hybrid solution. Vijay has already gone through some of the details. I'm not gonna repeat them again. But I guess that the takeaway that I'd like for you to have from this webinar is two things. First is, yes, this is possible. And two, while it's possible, it's also kind of complicated. So if this is something that is relevant to you and your business, we would love to talk to you, and we would love to see if we can help you make it into a reliable, practical process. And I think that brings us to the end. So if anyone does have any final questions, please do put them in QA now, and we'll get to them, because I think we've got another 5 minutes that we can still keep going for. Otherwise, a few steps for you folks. So the first is, please do review your Oracle version. We really would like to encourage everybody to upgrade to at least 19.16. Even if you're not planning to work with these hybrid flows, upgrading to at least 19.16 or later is just good practice. We've got another webinar coming up in this series called Delivering Hybrid Oracle DR with our product. That's going to take you through a hands-on demonstration of all this. So please do scan the QR code and subscribe to that if you're interested. And also, obviously, as ever, try our product. So we've got a couple of questions that's come in. And Vijay is on to them already. So so questions about the copy of the presentation, a recording of the presentation. As I said at the beginning, yep, that'll be coming out to all of the participants in this webinar soon. You don't have to worry about that. Question about, can we use this feature, this flow, this hybrid DR flow with both Windows and Linux? And Vijay is typing an answer right now. Maybe you'd like to sound that out as you're typing it, Vijay.
Yeah, the OCI DBCS is available only on Linux. So unfortunately, this will be done only on Linux.
That's a limitation of, I mean, it's, that's a current limitation of the way that Oracle Cloud offers this. There's nothing to say that in future they won't release a Windows appliance of some sort, but I don't think that any such thing has been announced. So for now, it's Linux only.
And just I have some questions on. So if you restore your standby database fresh in your on-premise environment, you have to use restore as decrypted. So it does not restore as decrypted by default. You have to use the word decrypted for your restoration. The problem was before 19.27, what happened is, if you don't apply the patch, even with this keyword, the on-premise database will be restored as encrypted. So that's the reason we have to apply one-off patch to ensure that the restoration happens as a decrypted one. That's one thing that we have to be very, very careful.
And when I remember when we discovered that, did it in the end, because we submitted that to Oracle, did they confirm that was a bug, Vijay?
Oh yes, it was a bug, and there was a bug fix for it. So they provided a patch.
Yeah. So this particular kind of note is actually a result of an Oracle bug that they fixed as of that version there. All right, I think we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And I hope that was useful. The recording will be coming, and I hope to speak to you again real soon.
Thanks, everyone. See you then. You have a good day.